Yeah,
Thank you so much for doing this.
no problem at all, Steve.
Can you tell my listeners when you started playing drums? Because I can imagine you must have started when you were really young. And were there any early
No,
influences?
believe it
No?
or not, I was 17 when I started, so I was a late starter. Um, I was a break dancer. That's how I met Noel and Mike, the bass player and guitar player. We were break dancers, so I got into that when I was maybe 14. I saw Shaka Khan on TV, and there was a couple of guys breakdancing. I was like, "My God, what the hell is that they're doing?" And then I discovered breakdancing from there, and
I
then
think
we just met up from there. Yeah, got into hip hop, and we listening to like Run DMC and all that kind of stuff. And then started getting into The Cure, The Smiths, Joy Division, that kind of music. And then a friend of mine was running. He was a DJ on local radio, and he was playing some Irish bands and local bands from Limerick, and we were like, "Oh my God, there's actually bands in Limerick." So then we were kind of too young to go to gigs, but there was some daytime gigs that we managed to get to see. And then we kind of thought, look, these guys are from our hometown. Why don't we get instruments and see if we can form a band? And that I was 17, Mike would have been 15, Noel would have been 16. So yeah, we started just late enough. So I think I practiced non-stop for like 3 or 4 years because I felt I was late to the game and I had time, I had to make up that time, so I just constantly practiced.
it paid off because you're surprising me by telling me this because I think you're a great drummer. Were
Thanks a
there
million.
were there any rock drummers that you checked out when you
Oh yeah.
decided to start playing?
Yeah. Obviously, John Bonham would have been a huge influence because I was big into Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, The
Showing off my
Cure.
Zeppelin shirt right now because
Hey,
I wore the
hey,
perfect shirt for today. Sorry.
fantastic. Yeah, and then as time progressed, I got into like Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana, obviously, and so all those people would have influenced me.
So is there a favorite drummer that you have?
No, I couldn't say I have a favorite. I just, there's Danny Carey would be top of the list actually for
Oh,
me
a
from
lot
two.
of
He's
people are talking
fucking
about him. Yeah.
astounding, and I only got to see them. It would have been 2019, 18, something like that, just before COVID, whatever that time was. They were playing in Germany, and I said, I have to go and see them because I'd never gotten a chance to see them because we were always on tour and never crossed paths. So just seeing them live is just a whole other experience altogether. What a band.
What is it about his drumming that so many people are going crazy over, in your opinion?
Um, he's just so controlled but full of emotion at the same time. Um, yeah, and he's doing stuff, and I'm baffled. I'm listening, going, "What the hell?" There must be overdubs there, but then seeing it live, and it's like, no, no, he's actually doing it.
That's
Incredible.
complimentary. So, were there any other bands before you got together with the brothers and started playing, or was it?
No, it was the three of us playing together, and then there was a guy we knew called Niall Quinn who was playing in another band. He was a drummer of the Hitchers, they were called, and he had written some songs and wanted to do a side project. So we got together with him for about 8 or 9 months, and he came up with the name The Cranberries Saw Us. So we played a few gigs, and it was a good experience to kind of learn about how gigs work and that, and did a demo. And then after about 8 or 9 months, he said, I want to go back and focus on the Hitchers more. And we were like, yeah, fine, that's no problem. And he put us in touch with Dolores because his girlfriend at the time was in school with Dolores. So Dolores came up to a rehearsal room on a Sunday afternoon, and we played some instrumental music we had. And she popped up her keyboard and played a few songs. We were like, okay, yeah, come back next Tuesday and we'll work on some stuff.
So, did the songwriting start right away with Dolores?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. She wasn't into doing cover versions, and we weren't either. There was plenty of bands doing covers around the city, and we wanted to just do our own our own original stuff. And she felt the same, and she was into similar music to us. She was into like the Smiths, Depeche Mode, The Cure, that kind of stuff.
If you look at things in a bigger terms, your deal didn't really take that long to come, did it? Island Records.
No, we did a few gigs, did a demo, and then sent that demo tape off and got loads of replies back, and loads of record companies came to see us, and there were big offers flying around, but we kind of weren't sure because some of them were very suity, if you know what I mean. They were very business orientated, and we were like, oh, I don't know about that, if they'd suit us. And then we met Denny Cordell from Ireland, who was a music producer. He produced Whiter Shade of Pale and worked with Tom Petty. He was a real old school music guy who was really into developing a band. And we were like, yeah, you're the man. So just perfect. It worked out perfectly.
Because I worked for A&M Records and we were under the same umbrella as Island, I knew a lot of the people in America that you were actually working with, mostly the promo people and that sort of
Okay.
thing. They seemed like a good label for you
Yeah.
guys at that
Yeah, they were.
time.
Yeah. Great people. Really good people.
Do you feel like it got off to a really good start right away?
Um, when we got to the States, it did. It took a while to kind of take off over here. Um, there was kind of a stop start with the first album. Um, so what happened was the album was recorded and there was promo copies sent out to all the press and media. Then the album got delayed and release. So it was 6 months later that the album came out. But they had got their promo tapes 6 months previously. So by the time the album came out, they were kind of going, oh, that's old news. We've moved on to something else. So it kind of took a while to get going. So we kind of toured around a little bit, and then Denny phoned to say that college radio in the States were playing Linger a lot. So we went over and did a tour there, and then it started to pick up, and MTV were playing it, and that filtered back to Europe, and Europe was like a year behind the US. So thank you, America.
Were you surprised at the reaction once people caught up?
Yeah, we were blown away because we've been slogging away in Europe and not many people knew us outside of Ireland and the UK, we'll say. And then we got to the US and people were singing songs. The venues were full. We were playing, opening up for doing half an hour slot before them, and then on our day off, we'd play our own show in a club somewhere, and it was sold out every night. It was like, oh my God, this is amazing, absolutely amazing. And we were like 20, 21 on a big adventure in the United States, and it was just incredible, absolutely incredible.
I was at Woodstock '94. You guys were fantastic. What was your impression of that show, and did you like the live version that we put out on the A&M album of Dreams? I mean, were you
Yeah.
guys all happy with all that?
Yeah, loved it, loved it. We were really excited to play there. We did a few warm-up shows. We played in Atlanta, I think. We played Summer Stage in New York in Central Park, just as a warm-up to get ready for Woodstock. And we kind of worked our way up along a few gigs up the coast, and then got to Woodstock and just walking out on stage. I'll never forget it. Like just looking at a sea of people. I've never seen such a huge crowd. And just, yeah, we just really got into it, and then just enjoyed ourselves.
And people were singing along with all the songs. It's funny because No Need to Argue only came out a week, I think,
Yeah.
before the Woodstock. Did you guys know that Zombie was going to be what it became?
No, 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 no. We knew there was something special about it because even before we recorded it, it was written about a year or so before we recorded it, and we had been playing it live. And by the time the second chorus came around, people were singing along, and even though they didn't know the song, they hadn't heard it before, and then it was just something clicked with them, and they were singing along by the second chorus. And it was like, okay, there's something special here. But yeah, I never realized how big it was going to be.
You know, there's 1.7 billion views of that video on YouTube, right?
It's hard to fathom. Yeah, I can't get my head around it. Like, I
I
try
thought
not
it
to
was,
think about stuff like that because I get freaked out.
I thought it was a misprint. I like wait, I gotta go on Wikipedia and see if that's right. And look for the, and I was like, and then 1.6 million of the zombie Woodstock video.
Wow, Jesus, brilliant.
That's when well, I always knew that was a great song. I like Dreams and Linger too. I mean, you guys have had some great songs, but for some reason, when I heard this is a protest song, I was like, this is what we need. And did Dolores bring the lyrics to that in, and did you guys figure out what was going
The
on
whole
there?
thing, yeah. Yeah, she came in. I remember it actually because it was a small little rehearsal room we had, like a shed in the back of our friend's John Cotter's house in Mungret, County Limerick. She arrived in and had her guitar and said, "Look, after writing this song, and it needs to be angry. The chorus especially needs to be angry and really loud. Have you got a distortion pedal?" So Noel gave her one of his pedals, and she plugged it in, and she started playing along. And the chorus came in, and she kicked in the distortion. I was like, "Yeah, laying into it." So we were yeah, yeah, listening and kind of got the vibe of it. So we all joined in, and it was just like, yeah, yeah. She was delighted. It was like, exactly, that's what I was thinking. And that's kind of always the way it worked. If she came in with an idea, she wouldn't even say anything usually. She'd just start playing. We'd all start listening, and then kind of start adding our own little bits to it, and then that would become the song.
It seemed like a perfect song for the drummer to play.
Oh yeah, yeah. I always saved a bit of energy for that one because it was usually the very last song in the set. After like an hour and a half of playing, you're playing zombies, so you kind of hold back that little bit for there
Yeah,
and
because
just
you
try
hit
and get
pretty
into the
hard.
feeling of it.
Yeah, you're a hard hitter, so I mean, you really let loose on that one for sure. Well, I wanted to kind of bring us up to what we're here to talk about, which is the MTV Unplugged. Um, do you remember going on stage at the Howard Gilman Opera House
Yeah,
in
yeah.
1990? I was there too for Sheryl Crow's. Sheryl Crow did a
It was in
Unplugged.
Brooklyn, wasn't it?
Yeah, right,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I
So, what did
remember.
you
Yeah.
think of that? What was it? What do you remember about that day?
Beautiful. I thought it was gorgeous. The way it was laid out and everything was just beautiful set. And we weren't nervous about playing acoustically because we had been playing acoustically a lot. We'd done a lot of like in-store performances in record stores and radio stations and that since the very beginning. And the songs, you know, they suit being played acoustically. So we didn't really feel any pressure or anything or going, oh no, we're going to have to change everything to make it sound acoustic. It was just a case of getting the acoustic guitars, my bongos or whatever, a couple of shakers, tambourines. And we had a string quartet that we had worked with a couple of times previously, the electro strings. And we did a day's rehearsal with them. I think Zombie was the one that we were a little bit concerned about, but once the strings come in and Dolores was kind of saying, push it in this part for the chorus with the cellos and give it a bit of, dun dun, pretend you're an electric guitar or something, and give it welly. But yeah, so yeah, once we had done the rehearsal, I think we felt a bit more relaxed and we got okay, everything else is fine.
Because of the success of Zombie, there's a lot of acoustic versions of the video acoustic versions of that song I found when I was
Mm.
looking for it. And I was really, I think KEXP or one of the station was my favorite one. You guys really nailed it on one of those radio shows. So
Okay.
you could tell you were playing it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, no need to argue it by that point was really, really taking off. It was probably a high point. Was that whole period kind of a blur for you now when you think
A
back at
little
it?
bit. Yeah, yeah. We were a bit freaked out because we're always been, fairly shy people and kind of quiet and did our own thing and didn't really hang out with celebrities and get into that whole thing. And then suddenly we're on the cover of everything. There's fans outside the hotel and it's a bit overwhelming, I think. And we were taken aback by that, I think. And we kind of just huddled together and went off on tour and kind of stayed in our bubble. And yeah, I think that's the way we handled it. We kind of said, look, just stick together and we'll get through this. Looking back on it now, it's kind of funny because it's like, okay, there's nothing to be freaked out about, really. Um, but yeah, yeah, I don't know when you're
Like
a bit younger
90,
like that.
yeah, 94 and 95. Those were some big years for the
Yeah,
Cranberries for
yeah,
sure.
big time there.
Getting back to the MTV Unplugged, the string section, the
Mm.
electric, how did that come into play?
We had done a TV show in the UK called the Jules Holland Show. Really, really good
I
show. It's
love
still
that
running
show.
actually.
Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Love
And
it.
whoever the producer on it is amazing because they always get really good new young acts and then they kind of mix it in with more established acts or whatever. So it's a fantastic show to be on. We played it a few times, but this time um the string section was on because it was oh I don't know what way it worked out, but we had that string section there with us. They were really good, worked really well with us. We actually did a show in the Royal Albert Hall around that same time, and we asked them to come and play with us there. Um, we had 2 nights, I think, with them, and yeah, it just clicked really well with them. They were really easy to work with. Got the whole rock and roll thing. They weren't too classical, if you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean. And so then when we were asked to do Unplugged, we thought straight away, yeah, we got to ask them to come over, and because they're on the ball and they know what they're doing. So
That was a great move. Is it true that Yesterday's Gone was written the day before the show? I just read that recently. And what do you
mm,
remember about putting that
a
song
few days
together?
beforehand, yeah, a few days beforehand, it was just something that Noel and Dolores were working on this idea. And then because we used to always do that with new songs. Like if a new song was say, if we were writing on the road, at sound checks and that, we'd kind of work on new stuff. And then after a few days, we said we throw it in the set tonight, see how it fares out in front of the audience. So I think that's what happened. It was one of those things of we've a new song, let's try it out, sounding good. We'll play it at the unplugged, and for some reason that was it. It was never played again. It just kind of one of those songs that got lost in the mix, and it's a beautiful song. We never recorded it. Yeah, never played it live again, I don't think that I remember. So yeah, it's just one of those magic moments that was meant to be.
It's always good when you have unreleased tracks all these years later being released. That's fantastic. Um, Dolores's voice was, often described as otherworldly, especially in these acoustic settings. What do you
Mm.
remember about her energy and mindset going into that performance? I know it's a few years ago, but
Yeah, no, it was the same. She was feeling confident about it. You know, she was very confident in her voice because she'd been singing since she was a kid, and she was playing organ and piano and stuff since she was like maybe 3 or 4. And, she loved to express herself. She loved to show off her voice, and kind of going, look what I can do, And I think she really appreciated her gift and worked hard to kind of be an individual. Because I remember she told me she went to singing lessons once, just for one day, because her piano teacher said maybe you should get singing lessons. So she went to the vocal coach, and I think she was a really strict lady, and she was like, "No, you can't do this, you can't do that." And Doris was like, "But this is the way I express myself. I've been doing this for years, and if I don't do that, then I'm not being individual. I'm not being me." So she was dead right because she just sounded like everyone else otherwise. So it's
yeah,
perfect.
she didn't need any tips. She
No,
definitely didn't need any tips. Why do you think this unplugged session continues to resonate with fans and critics 30 years later? And what do you think it captured about the band that other performances didn't?
I think because it's something different. It's not a full-on live rock show with big drums and loud electric guitars, and there's an intimacy to it that really exposes Dolores's voice and the songs. I think, yeah, that intimate side that sometimes maybe gets lost in bigger stages.
So whose idea was it to like all these years later to remaster it and select formats and release this record? Did a
It was
label?
something we were, yeah, it was something we were thinking about, and we were speaking to the label about it, and they said, yeah, it's a great idea. We'll see if we can get the rights for MTV, and we've been discussing it for a while, and they went off and did the technical legal side of it, and freed up the rights or whatever, and then you know here we are.
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing. It's fantastic. What do you think people are gonna, I mean, how do you think people will react? I mean, I know you got your hardcore fans, obviously. Nobody gets 1.7 billion views of a video if you don't have any fans. I mean, there's probably a real lot of excitement, I would imagine, especially in Ireland, right?
Yeah, everywhere really. I don't know. It's because our fans are kind of spread around. We're actually bigger outside of Ireland than we ever were in Ireland. It's just one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, Cranberries or whatever, you know. Um, but yeah, hopefully fans will be excited about it because it's something different. Maybe a lot of them mightn't have heard some of those songs before, and especially in acoustic settings. So yeah, it's nice to give people something new. And if you don't want it, don't buy it. So if you're a fan like I am, I'm the kind of person who used to go to record stores and look for the B-side and those rarities and things like that.
Me
So
too.
for someone like me, I'd love this kind of stuff.
Do you listen to a lot of new music now, Fergal, or do
Yeah,
you like?
I do. Yeah, because my kids are the youngest is 19, and she's always sending me stuff, and I'm sending stuff back to them, trying to educate them about stuff that I was listening to maybe in my younger days, and then they'd be sending me new stuff. So yeah, I like to keep my finger in the pulse and kind of keep up to date with what's going on. There's
Is
some
there
good new
anything?
bands coming out.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there anything you're listening to
Yeah,
these days that you
there's
like?
actually a great band from County Galway called New Dad, and I didn't realize they were Irish. They kind of sound Cocteau Twinsy, that kind of vibe,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
really like that kind of stuff. It's kind of wall of sound guitars and female vocalists as well. But yeah, I really like them. Um, I can't think of anything else at the moment now, but they're the ones that are listened to a good bit.
Are you surprised how many women are out there now fronting bands and they've kind of taken the whole business over when in the
Great.
90s it wasn't really like
There
that?
wasn't that many. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's brilliant. And I like to think that Dolores was a part of that. Kind of saying, "Look, I can do this. You don't have to be playing bass or guitar. You can be the singer as well."
Yeah, that was how I wanted to end it with you. I wanted to ask you if you could say a few words about Dolores, maybe some things that people might not know and what she meant to you and the band.
Well, for me personally, I always felt like she was my little sister, and I just always felt protective of her, and you know, would try and do anything to help her deal with the stress of being the singer. Saying like, "Do you want me to do some interviews with you?" or that kind of thing. And she had a real funny sense of humor that maybe people mightn't know because they maybe think she's very serious. She was very serious or whatever. But yeah, she had a good sense of humor. And anytime we were doing photo shoots and stuff like that, because you're standing around a lot for photo shoots, kind of waiting for people to get the lighting right and stuff. So you're kind of bored, and we'd start joking, and the four of us would be cracking up, laughter. I'm kind of, oh, gotta get serious again for the photograph. you know. So yeah, she had a great sense of humor,
Was she
which
the
is
funniest one in the band?
no, Mike was the funniest one in the band, definitely. Yeah, yeah, he was like a stand-up comedian.
So it sounds like you guys were a pretty tight organization.
Yeah, we'd been through an awful lot together, and we kind of went through that whole starting off in a small shed and then kind of gradual process of getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, we were like a family really. And our crew had been with us from the very start as well. So that was the other some of the bands we toured with used to call us the Waltons because we were like a big family heading around on our tour bus.
Who were some of the bands that you did go on the road with that you look back fondly?
Oh, Grantley Buffalo, do you know that band?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that band. They're there. They were a great band. Duran Duran, they were really nice. Oh my God, the Stones. We did a few gigs with the Stones, and it was
Wow.
just to see something on that scale was phenomenal. And AC/DC played one of those gigs in Germany as well on the Stones tour, so we got to meet them, and they were so nice, so nice.
You guys played with the Stones and AC/DC
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
on the
same
same
bill?
bill. Yeah, because
Wow.
Germany love rock, and I think whoever was the promoter said get AC/DC in here as well and kind of beef up the numbers.
You reminded me when you said Greatly Buffalo that you guys also did a song for the Carpenters tribute record,
Mm,
Close to You. Do you remember anything about that?
yeah, I do. We actually played that at Woodstock.
Yeah,
I
you did.
remember.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. The request came through from the rec company or whatever to do a Carpenter song. And we were like, oh, geez, it'd be great to do Close to You, but someone else has probably picked it. And then we sent back an email or whatever, and they were like, oh no, Close to You is available. And we're like, okay, great, we'll take that. So yeah, we went into some small studio in London and got Stephen Street to come in and produce it with us. But yeah, it worked out really well. I love that song. We always loved that song. It was one of those ones I remember hearing on the radio as a kid.
Yeah, I worked on that compilation. That was a lot of fun, man, to work
Yeah,
on.
some
All
great
the
bands in that.
Yeah, like you listen to Superstar by Sonic Youth, and it's like, wow, it's like they made their own like version of it.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
really
that's the way
did,
it should be.
really did. Do you play anymore now?
Yeah, not drums so much. I do more. I'm doing music for soundtracks and that, and I actually just finished a documentary, so I'm heading over to Savannah tomorrow because the launch of the documentary is on Saturday. It's about
Savannah, Georgia?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Um, it was the life of Don Bluth. He was an animator that worked with Disney for a while and then went out on his own and did All Dogs Go to Heaven and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Land Before Time, things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
that
Have you
was
worked on a
exciting.
lot of soundtracks?
Yeah, I've done a good few kind of short films and stuff like that, and this is the first kind of feature length that I've done.
Well, hey man, thank you so much for talking to me and good luck with this MTV Unplugged drug. I think it's going to be huge, man. I really
Great.
do. I've got a good
Thank you
feeling
very
about it.
much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Fergal.
Steve.
All
Take
right.
care. Have a good weekend. Bye.
You too.